What's going on, everybody? This is Black Men Sundays. I'm your host, Corey Sylvester Murray, and we're talking about generational wealth, mental health, finance, and business.
It's a black man Sunday. Time to put all childish things away. I refuse to be the man I was yesterday. Gotta put my best foot forward and elevate.
And this is our second show of 2025. And let me tell you, one thing you're going to notice about Black Men Sundays this year, there's a lot of couples that are in business with different skill sets that figure how to put the skill sets together to be successful. So let's run down who we have on the show. Let's go on and introduce our guests. We have Monica May and her husband, George Ashford. They're the owners of the CB Bistro Jazz Club, but they started out as CB Catering. Everyone knows in Orlando, our show's worldwide, but people in Orlando knows Monica May, star at 94.5, producer and a host. I know I listen to her in the evening on Sundays, and I hear she's on 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings, but it's a little rough for me getting up that early after my Saturday nights. But this sister here, outside of being in the radio industry, this sister has Monica May Communications. She's a image consultant for pro athletes. She's a media coach. When we talk about being in the community, being engaged, which Black Men Sunday, we do our turkey drive, but we're trying to take our game up to the next level like this sister has been doing. She's a community affairs expert, and she's the founder of a 501c3 nonprofit, Let's Spill the Tea, Inc. And keep in mind, last week we had the sisters on from the Eat Well Exchange, and they gave y'all some tips on how to start one. So we're going to get some tips from this sister as well. But let's introduce her husband as well. This brother here is George Ashford, over 40 years experience in the food industry. When we're talking about fine dining, private clubs, full service restaurants, this brother catered for A-list clients. We're talking about Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey. So with all that being said, Monica May and George Ashford, welcome to Black Men Sundays, brother and sister. How y'all doing?
We're doing very well. Very well.
Glad to be here.
Definitely.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, definitely. It was a privilege. I was at a NABJ meeting in December at CB Bistro, by the way. I brought my wife with me. I was a little jealous. I'm a member. How she went in a Christmas gift, and I didn't get one, but I got to meet brother Ashford, and I got to meet Monica May in person. Or like I said, I listen to her on Sundays. Like probably when I get out of here today, I'm gonna be bumping some of those classics that she be playing. But like I said, one thing about this brother and this sister that we don't know is that they're a business owner. So let's take it back for a second. Because Monica, what I want to know about you is, let's start off with your community affairs, being an expert with that. Let's talk about, when we talk about business ownership, because this show is about generational wealth. We're going to get to CB Bistro in a minute, but I want to talk about this Monica May Communications, because when I'm watching TV on the networks, some of those hosts have their own communication companies bumped into the network. So how did you set that up, and what was the impetus behind that?
A couple of years ago, I left radio for a moment. It turned out to be just a moment. I've been in radio, first of all, let me just say, since college. So more than 40 years. And I've traveled the country doing it. For the last 13, I produced and hosted Tom Joyner's morning show. And what happened midway through that was that they moved over to another comedian, and then they went back to Steve Harvey. And I saw what was happening. This is a community-based city where we want to see you, we want to feel you, we want to know that we can reach out and touch you. It's almost like when I was back in the day booking entertainment, when we went from live bands to just track artists. The public didn't really like that because they want to give the drummer some, if you know what I mean. So that was really the feel that they had. And when the other comedians didn't make it into the market or felt a little bit untouchable or weren't as directly for Central Florida information, it began to be an issue. And I knew that we were about to go into tumultuous times, and I just didn't want to laugh, be part of the laugh track. I'm about saying something and meaning something. So I decided to come off the air and start Monica May Communications. I bought my name years ago and just decided to go full speed ahead. And so I produced a show called One Take Live. It turned into a podcast. And somewhere along the line, this new program director that came into the Central Florida market heard about me in the community. Matter of fact, community folks kept coming up to him and like, where is she? What is she doing? He called me and asked, what did I want to do? Well, first of all, if I wanted to come back on the air. I wasn't too geeked up on it because what was I going to do? I didn't want to be a DJ. So he said, well, what do you miss the most? And I said, listen, I talk for a living, and introducing business and like we're doing this evening, talking about generational wealth. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy having conversation. So they named a show, Monica May's Point of View. Community Affairs is always on early in the morning. They extended it after 1 week to 2 hours. And people now, 2 years later, call me to get on the show. And while we had one this morning with 5 different guests. So I'm breaking these segments into 15-minute pops to make sure that everybody gets on. So you mentioned the Eat Well Exchange. I had both of those sisters on this morning. And then we went from educating the community about health and wellness with the thyroid piece is what we were talking about, to talking about this is National School Choice Week. As Black people, we don't know that you have a choice, especially here in Florida. You have a choice about what school to send your child to. It does not have to be a zone school, and you need to fight that all the way. So we talked about the different regimes of school, from public school to private. And then we talked about the fact that Yolanda Adams is coming to town to support a Need to Read program. And we also talked about a couple of other things. A mother-daughter tech duo is introducing an app during the Zora Festival this week. So there's so many things, and you have to be able to flip your script to be able to accommodate and achieve conversation and make it flow. Because my show is live. I don't have a second chance to get it right. And that's why I even call the podcast One Take Live, because I'm not editing like you, big dog, or if you, I don't have that. I don't want to do that. I want it to just be flesh out, go. Let's just go. And I met my husband really on a blind date like 11 years ago. And his thing was supporting me with that nonprofit. And we decided to get where you came to that day, that CB Bistro. And we've made it through the pandemic, and it's turned into a full-fledged jazz bistro at this point.
You're a media coach. Let's talk about some of the clients that you were able to get.
I think people just know what to expect from me because I've been in this area. Now, I would love to branch out a little bit more with the athlete piece of it. We started that years ago. Nick Anderson, Penny Hardaway, there were a lot of folks that we worked with, and we branched off into commercials and actors. And now I'm actually doing it more so with young people too, especially after this pandemic, Corey. Our kids, oh boy, we're behind the 8 ball so fierce that it's more important now. So I put the athletes on the back burner for just a moment to really focus back on our kids and getting them to be able to move to the next level with communication being key.
Let's talk about your 501c3 nonprofit,
Love
Let's
it.
Spill the Tea Incorporated. What is that? And what was the impetus of you setting that up?
Thank you for asking. I was asked to speak often around the country, but years ago, I was speaking at the Beta School, and Beta is a school for teenage pregnant moms. And I realized that over a year's time, I began to see some of the same girls. That should not be, because these girls are 15, 16, not even up to 17. And so I said, they need to hear some stuff. So I got there early one day, sat in my car, and took out a legal pad and wrote my life story from the time I was 12 up until that day. So I synopsed it, and I did it in third person. So you didn't know that I was speaking about myself. And I talked about the many pitfalls, meeting those brothers under the tree when I got to college, and how derailed I got, my lack of self-esteem, my lack of communication skills, just not being assured of myself. And I talked to them how about teenage pregnancy. I talked about breaking a generational curse because the same thing happened to me, but I needed to stop it in its tracks. And I talked to the girls about the importance of that. That turned into a conversation that I had with my own daughter when she was 13. And that started this tea thing because I felt that if I could read this letter, she hear the letter and not lose respect for me, but in fact cry and embrace me and say, man, I knew that you had gone through a lot. I didn't know it was like this. And she still loved and respected me. I said, well, we could teach other moms to be able to sew into their girls. So the slogan, Corey, is Moms, your past can save your daughter's future. And when I met George, we both knew that we had some synergy there besides falling in love. We knew that we could find space where he could have the kitchen and I could have the front of the whatever edifice it was going to be. And that's how we came upon the CB Bistro location that you came to, because that's where we have our intimate tea meetings. And then we go over to like Valencia and other larger spaces to do our retreats and teen summits and things like that, where we bring in over 100 mothers and daughters. So it's all about telling the truth to your daughter, and dads are involved too. So it's a win-win for families.
Got you. And from a business point of view, how did you set up your nonprofit? Did you have a lawyer do it? Did you do it? Like, what steps did you take to set it up from a, from a business and a financial perspective?
We actually did get a lawyer involved, and George and I did that together. We the same attorney that George uses and went and helped us with that. So we established the 501(c)(3) as well as Monica May Communications, bought and sold the name. Bought the name, not sold it, but brought the name. And same thing with Let's Spill the Tea. So everything is legitimately out there, and we own it. And
Nice.
that's the important thing. They say you can do it on your own, but we chose to go ahead and pay that legal fee to go and have it done. So we know that, it factors in, and he really keeps us on track with everything. And then I've hired a consultant who helps him, because that attorney puts you on track to get your paperwork set up, but you do need to work with a consultant if that's not your thing. And it's not necessarily mine, but I work with a consultant who keeps me on track, and because there's quarterly paperwork, there's a lot that's involved with it. So I do pay someone to help keep me on track with stuff.
That's great information. All right, George, I'm coming to you now, man. 40 years experience in the food industry.
at least.
I'm seeing the CB catering started out and then it turned into a full-fledged restaurant. Like I said, you've catered for Oprah and Michael Jordan. So let's talk about you, man. Were you a brother that just you were in the kitchen back in the day cooking? Or like, how did you get into that, and how did you take it to a professional stage?
Well, actually, my skill is primarily in the dining room, is what it started. So I started at a private club in Chicago called the Standard Club in Chicago. I started there as a waiter, and when I left, I was a banquet manager. And this is one of the most exclusive city clubs in the country. So my background is primarily in fine dining and in the dining room. Part of one of the responsibilities as a maitre d' or captain in this type of establishment, you had to learn how to cook. You had to know different sauces. You have to prepare things from scratch. About 65–70% of the food was prepared what they called the cart service, which was table side. Like Caesar salads being made from scratch, shrimp Dijon, shrimp scampi, that sort of thing, steak Diane. So my background is in fine dining, and that's where I started. And I've used the same skills in our catering service. So, and also went to school as a chef, and also went to school to study hotel and restaurant management in Chicago.
Okay, that's great information. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, man. And let's talk about CB Bistro, man. So it was CB Catering. The pandemic happened. Take over from there.
Well, our primary business still is catering.
Mhm.
So we cater, our catering business is has a wide spectrum. We cater everything from private school lunches to camps, retreats. We're the official caterers for the Catholic Diocese of Orlando. We're also the official caterers for the Episcopal Diocese of Central Florida. We cater at Lou Gardens. We're at the Crystal Ballrooms. We do, I mean, you name it, we pretty much do it. But we cover, in addition to that, we prepare food for and cater for private schools and camps, such as Camp Weewa, such as San Pedro Center, at which is owned by the Catholic Church. Central Florida Christian Academy is another account. So that's primarily what we do. And then the bistro during the pandemic, all the schools were closed, the banquet facilities were closed. We spent the first 2 months feeding first responders, people in the community, women in women in shelters.
For free.
For free for the first 2 months. And then once we realized that the pandemic was going to continue, we made the decision to, my wife in radio and having all these connections with musicians, we made the decision to use our outdoor patio underneath the veranda to actually set it up and have live bands and music, and that's where the bistro started. It started during the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, we were going to go back to our original footprint, which was using the dining room for the spill the teas, which we still do, but we were using it also as a display room for brides and grooms to come in and look at the different table settings and a tasting room. And well, the community said, nope, we want the bistro back open. We want, we want to have the live music. We want to have that type of ambiance. So I took a lot of the skills that I've learned over the years, and a lot of years, to actually in fine dining to actually utilize in the bistro.
Oh, that's great information, man. I just ate me a slice of pizza, so thank you very much. I'm back hungry again. And one thing I noticed when I was at CB Bistro, it was in Metro West. I was like, man, you have a great location. So, like, what went into, and this, our show, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs trying to set up their business listen to our show. So the question basically is, how did you select that location?
Well, the location was selected. It was a joint effort, my wife and I. So I was looking at a location which was very close to that location, which was about 4 times the size, maybe 5 times the size of it. So that's what I was looking at. And it had a huge kitchen set up. It had a dock in the back where you can pull a truck up. And so after discussion and going through the numbers back and forth, we made the decision to go into that location. The location was designed. I have built several restaurants before in the past, from Chicago, also here. And one of the things that I do as an entrepreneur, as a restaurateur, I'm looking for establishments that are already built out. That's the first key, because just the shell alone, without the equipment or anything else, and that establishment that you were in, just a vanilla shell, and just putting in the electricals and putting in the sewage,
hoods.
the hood system, and that sort of thing. You're looking at 350,000 just for the shell to start with. Now, when you start bringing in equipment, and you start bringing in, silverware and plates and so forth, your expense is considerable. So one of the key things in the restaurant industry is the location. Also, you want to see whether that establishment has what we call the bones for a restaurant. So you want to make sure everything is in there that you can, and if everything is not there that you need, you can add to it. So that's going to lower your expense, your startup expense. A lot of times in business, as African Americans, we don't necessarily have our startup businesses from banks. So the money comes from saving, money comes from, starting our small business in unique fashions. So we may have a catering business, but we may prepare food on location, for example. They call it a commissary. So you may have a very unique way of starting business till you grow to such an extent where you're able to save money to actually go into a brick and mortar building. And so the catering business, and for CB Catering, we feed anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different
Moving parts.
moving parts in
Yeah.
different locations. We have a lot of fun with the bistro, and we really enjoy doing that with the live music, the band, picking out the different groups that are performing, thinking about what specials we're going to have because the menu changes weekly, going into the different chefs' tables that we'll prepare. So, there's a lot of different creativity that goes into it. That's my suggestion, to look for a place that's already established, and then you can redesign it into your vision. And then you want the exposure. You want to make sure you have ample parking space around. It's easy to get to. People can get in and out in a timely fashion. Yeah, and you have the exposure from the street in a busy location.
When we talk about couples, because I see, I felt like the last 2 years has really been the year of the entrepreneur. I've heard people want to quit their day job. I want to jump right in. I've heard them say, save 6 months, a year of income before you jump right in. So when you guys set up CB Bistro, George, from your point of view, because Monica already told us, from your point of view, were you working doing something else before you set up CB Bistro? Like, how did you how were you able to dive right into that, especially feeding first responders? Because I know that wasn't cheap.
I've had an established catering business, a very lucrative established catering business for decades here in the Orlando area. And we would specialize, not exclusively, but one of our specialties were non-for-profit organizations, church-based organizations, whether it's the Baptist Association or whether it's a Catholic diocese or the Episcopal diocese. We would establish ourselves with private institutions. So my reasoning for that is because I call it your bread and butter. You're starting off with accounts that are going to feed you on a consistent basis. So you're able to say, I can expect X amount of dollars a week coming in, X amount of dollars a month coming in from this account. And then you start to add on to it. So the bistro, I would rent various kitchens throughout the city of Orlando, surrounding area, and we would cater out of those various kitchens that we would rent, and it was very lucrative. We fed hundreds and hundreds of people a day.
But we realized it made more sense to have one central location. So to service all of those meals out of one place. And then we also still do things on the east side for San Pedro and in other locations.
Right. We still have two other corporate kitchens
Mhm.
because of the size of our business.
Mhm.
But it gave us an opportunity to have as my wife said, to have a centralized location where we're able to operate 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whatever we wanted to do. And that was made the most sense, most logical sense.
Corey, when you talk about generational wealth, let me just add that our family is able to run our business. Our son manages the food. Actually, our granddaughter manages both of our companies, and our son does most of the work for our catering business. And it gives George and I a chance to just create more and build on what we already have.
And I would like to say that through the years, all of my children, most of my grandchildren have worked in my businesses.
Yeah.
They've actually grew up working in those different businesses. So they were able to see firsthand hard work, dedication, complete the task, do it right. And, I would have like my grandson, Papa, can I get this? You can get whatever you want. You're going to go to work.
Yeah.
And if I ask them one question, what is my philosophy? If you don't work, you don't eat. It's just that simple. You got to come to work. You gotta put in the time, and you want to feel good about the money that you're earning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what we do. But my daughters, my sons, I can go on and on, have worked in the business. Now, many of them worked in the business and they don't want anything else to do with it. That's great. but I have
They've touched it.
they've touched it.
Yeah.
But I have two members of my family that are doing like Taisha, for example. She's our office manager. It's my granddaughter, and she runs my office as well as Monica's, and she has her own business, but she's able to facilitate those different skills for us also. And
Your son.
our son, being the kitchen manager, he runs a huge part of our operation, like at CB Bistro, for example. You know, he'll run the food, he'll order, do whatever's necessary. And then we have managers at different other locations to order, to oversee everything.
I'm gonna let my brothers engage with you guys for a moment, but
Okay.
on the back end, after they're finished, I want to talk about some tips for couples that want to go in business together.
So I'm Ray calling out of Rockledge, Florida, so not too far away from
Mhm.
you guys. So my question is to both of you, regarding like community impact. What has been the most rewarding part of your work, and what are you the most proud of up to this point? That's a question for both of you.
I think for our business, for the catering business, I was most proud of us during the pandemic because there was so much food that we had that we weren't able to use for what it was allocated for. So we didn't let anything go to waste. We started YouTubing cooking sessions. George is amazing on the other side of the camera. He has fun with it. So he was teaching folks how to make steak, how to make all kinds of things. We brought in students from international groups, and they had cooking sessions there too. We fed, like we said, the first responders, and there were times that we were able to get food out to people who weren't going to be able to afford it because they weren't working. So that was just a good feeling. And then throughout the years, it's been 11 years now that we've been together, he has assisted me with Let's Spill the Tea because we make sure that at every tea, these kids, these moms, they're getting fed. So we do community givebacks, and George is always taking care of someone's nonprofit, either for a reduced rate or nothing. And we're careful about it. Benevolence sometimes can make you go broke, but we try to service our community as best we can.
And also, one of the components of our catering business, especially when we're feeding students, if you will, because if you're feeding 400 or 500 people for students, or even the extended catering, you're going to have food left over. And what do you do with that food?
Yeah.
Well, most restaurants and companies throw that food away after it's prepared. But we started something that we call family to family services. It's not a non-for-profit. It's basically just a self-help type of operation. And we have food that's left over. We put in sealed foil pans, and we freeze it, and then we give that food to organizations that have been trained in food handling. And that's one of the features of what we do. And they can actually take that food back to their church, and take it back to their community center or different shelter, and they can prepare it, after it's already prepared. And we've done that and actually fed hundreds and hundreds of people that way. Another aspect of our business, we have what we call a food scholarship. A lot of the private schools, not mentioning which, but a lot of the private schools would actually give scholarships to a lot of Black athletes. And athletes would come in and they would, do their thing, whether it's football, baseball, whatever avenue they were in. And come time for the lunch, they didn't have anything to eat. They couldn't afford the meal. So we would put together what we called a food scholarship. And if it was a ticket service, they had the same ticket, the same color, wasn't any distinction from any of the other students. And we would just basically give those tickets to the coach and the head coach, and the coach would disperse them to the students. Because I wanted to make sure that everybody ate, that they had a meal too. And if they couldn't afford it, that's something that we wanted them to be able to participate in. It's essential. So, that's our give back with our company. And if you're talking about give back with my wife, we'll be talking all night. I will tell you, we'll be talking all night.
Let me add
So,
one more thing in there in terms of a give back. There was one local organization who wanted us to do a cooking class for some young men. Well, the class started out with maybe 10 to 12 young African American males. By maybe the second or third week, we started, that number doubled, and then we
right.
got girls to come in and they began busing over like a van load of these kids. Not only were they getting real live cooking lessons, but George put together a Black history piece for them. So they were learning economics, they were learning African American history. They were being taught so much that by the end of that year, they vowed to come back. So we love doing that part of it, giving back to the community that way too. So
It's one aspect of being able to actually cook the food, and that's extremely important, obviously, if you have a food service business. But it's a business. You have to know your labor costs. You have to know your
yeah.
food costs.
So he was teaching them all of
You have
that.
to know the storage. You have to know the history of the food. You have to know the supplies, where your supply chain comes from. So that's the back end that we were teaching also. And then Monica would teach etiquette. She would teach different life skills, dress for success,
Communication skills. You know, I was big on that, Corey.
how to actually interview,
Mhm.
how to actually come in and,
Get a job.
properly interview, so that you would get the job that you're seeking.
Mhm.
So these are some of the life skills that we were teaching. We were going back to basics and really getting deep into it. I mean, we went back to Africa. We
No,
were
he
back to talking
did.
about Massa Musa. It was the
Mhm.
richest man that ever lived. And these kids were just like, what?
And they were soaking it up, and it makes you feel good when you see them in another setting. Corey, I saw these kids for something that we catered for at Valencia College, and this was through
It's a noble program,
Noble program, and Noble is Black police officers
national program.
national program. And so some of our kids were in that program. Their listening skills were amazing. They're being able to hear the question, answer the question. These are the things that George and I taught them, and they did so well, not even knowing that we were in the room. So that's such a good feeling when you know that your skills are not going in vain.
And when we would see the kids, once they recognized that we were in the room, they would walk up, Miss May, Mr. George, how you doing? And
Yeah.
they would have this, kind of conversation. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. That you guys juggle so much and have achieved so much. So my next question, I guess this is a question for both of you also. With all that being said, you guys are community leaders, nonprofit founders, business owners, media personalities. You guys have accomplished so much, both of you. So what are future goals, I guess, in the next phase of your life? Have you felt that, okay, this may be enough, or this may be the peak, or are you guys thinking more so of we just got to keep grinding, we just got to keep going and keep making an impact. So what I guess what are you looking in the future to achieve that you haven't already? Which is quite impressive, by the way.
Well,
Thank
thank you.
you.
I don't know if it's necessarily well, first of all, we don't look at it as grinding. I think we look at it as having fun. We look at it as a challenge or building a business or building a brand. So for us, it's a challenge, yes, but it's like, I mean, playing chess is a challenge. So we look at it as having fun, and that we've incorporated that in our lifestyle. So it's part of who we are as individuals. I think if I had to get up and do it, if I had a mindset that this is necessary in order for me to survive, then it would change my perspective on it. Now, I'm saying that from a person that has literally built businesses from virtually nothing. And it's a mindset. It
It
largely
is.
is a mindset. So you want to say, yes, I got to do this to survive, but you got to be into it. You got to love what
Yeah.
you're doing. You have to enjoy what you're doing. And that's going to take you to the next level, in my opinion. And so I think that's just part of, we incorporate that. We incorporate our businesses into our lifestyle. We'll be at the beach. We'll go to Las Vegas and, get an email. We may not respond at that moment, but, we may be at dinner or something of that nature. But once we stop and once we kind of regroup, and say, hey, I'm going to just respond to this person. And we just kind of do it while we're doing what we do to enjoy life and to enjoy each other.
First off, my name's Kalali Dogbe. I'm out of Southern Maryland, Calvert County, Maryland. First of all, I just want to thank you both for spending some time with us to share some information with us. I mean, it's been a wealth of great information. I just been sitting back here listening. You know what I'm saying? So
Thank you.
really do appreciate it. One thing that caught my attention that you said was, just the piece that here you kind of towards the end about generational wealth and getting your children involved and playing a role in your business. And you may have already answered the question in the process of answering Ray's question. But my question is, how do you make your kids interested in your business? Because sometimes when you have a business, like your kids aren't interested in what you do. They want to go do something else that is not necessarily related to the business. And so sometimes because of that, they don't pick up the skills that allow for generational wealth to be passed on. Really, that's generational knowledge about how to build a business or how to carry on a business, or because they're living a different lifestyle than the one you're living. You know what I mean? They don't see it as important to what they're doing to kind of carry on what you're doing. And I've seen this happen, not only with Black
Countless
families,
times.
but with all families, with white families as well, where it's like I've seen it happen with millionaires where they'll have a business that they've built and nobody in their family really even wants to pick it up or carry it on. So how do you ensure that your kids stay interested and stay part of that lifestyle, and so you can keep that generational knowledge going and that generational wealth?
So let me ask you, have you ever been to a Chinese restaurant carry out and seen maybe a couple kids sitting there doing homework?
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of their kids doing
Yeah,
homework.
the kids would be, yeah,
The owners of the Chinese restaurant, which happen to be Chinese,
yeah, yeah,
you've
yeah,
seen them doing the homework.
yeah.
And it's interesting because they are literally, it's a mindset. So even if I'm learning, even if I'm going into, let's say I'm going into the radio industry, okay, there's certain business skills that can be transferred to that industry. You're learning what your cost factors are. You're learning what it takes to operate a business. Whether you have a studio, you have guests coming to your studio, you know that the restrooms have to be clean, you know that the place has to look a certain way. You're transferring those same business principles to whatever business you're going into. So that's one advantage. Even if they don't go into the restaurant business,
Yeah.
they know how to balance a budget. They know how to look at the documents and say, wait a second,
This
this
isn't
is,
right.
yeah, this much is going out and this is coming in. This is not making sense. When you look at different cultures expose their children to business, whatever business that they're in, they expose their kids to that. And the kids have that sense that they're able to learn that particular skill or go on and do something else. But that same kid that may grow up as sitting in that Chinese restaurant may grow up to be a doctor one day, but he's going to own his own practice and he's going to be able to transfer that mindset, if you will, of ownership. He's going to be able to use those same principles in his medical practice.
Yeah.
I would also add something in reality between the two of us, because we married later in life. So we had our families. We have 5 children altogether. And of the 5, my daughter has worked with me in radio. She liked it. She wasn't interested in the on-air piece, but she was interested in the marketing piece. But she understood the skill set, the mindset of having to get up, show up on time, be ready, and be prepared. So she learned that. of George's four children, one has really taken the interest and grown with it. You can't force them all, but you can certainly show them. I can lead you to the water. I can't make you drink. But what we try to instill in all of them is the independence and the importance of getting up and going out and making it. Because every day when you're independently, when you work for yourself, every day you got to think about, where am I going to go and get this money?
That's right.
It's foraging.
That's right.
Every day I'm thinking about a new client. Every day I'm thinking of an idea. That's how I came up with One Take Live. Every day I'm thinking of something different. And our kids are basically, they're thinking about that too. I think all of them are entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even because he has two children in Chicago, they're entrepreneurs. And everybody thinks like that. And it's so funny because I never considered myself to be an entrepreneur. But then when I thought about it, yeah, I am. I've worked for myself forever. It's rare for me to. I punched a clock when I lived in New York and I hated it. I hated it. Now, coming into radio, I could show up on time for my air shift, but a perfunctory 9 a.m., that was just so boring to me. So you meet somebody where they're born, and you just help them, lift them, show them, and they have the choices to go do whatever they want to, but you've shown them. And like he said, it is cultural because those Chinese kids didn't have a choice. We
Yeah,
give our kids too many
yeah,
choices.
this is the program. I mean, this is what we're going to do.
This is it.
You know,
yeah.
We're at the restaurant,
This is where you're going to
and
be.
you're coming here to do chores at the restaurant along with you're going to do your homework here.
Yeah.
Your life centers around it. It may seem very foreign to us, and maybe it is. I'm not suggesting that's the level, but it has to be that mindset of like my wife just said. It has to be that mindset. When you wake up in the morning, where's the money?
Yeah.
I mean, where's the money?
Where am I going to get it?
It's and I've had someone say to me, and they wanted to go into their own business, and I'm very encouraging. I believe it's like the Godfather movie. I believe in America. I'm saying, this is where you're gonna make your money, right? So, hey, I'm all for the philosophy. People come from all over the world just for that type of philosophy.
Yeah.
But the concept, they said to me, they said, yeah, but I got to have guaranteed money.
Ain't nothing guaranteed.
Well, you need a job.
Mhm.
You want guaranteed money. You need this person to tell you I'm making $1,500 a week, and every week you show up at this time, and you're going to get your $1,500. That's guaranteed. I guess as guaranteed as a person going to get. But for entrepreneurs, we don't live a guaranteed life. Our lifestyle is more of like, I have to make it.
Mhm.
So when you're wired, your wiring is different. So your mindset is, where's the money? I have to make it. Even when you have, and they say have enough money, I don't know what that is, but even if you have, you know, savings and have things and you have investments and all of that, you have money coming in, you're still so wired and conditioned that you're thinking, where's the money? I'm up. Where's the money? Where's the next? Even though you don't necessarily have to have it, to pay a light bill at that moment, but your mindset is just that wired that you're constantly, you trained yourself in that discipline. Like, okay, what's next? So okay, so what does it look like? You start thinking about what's your next project? What else can I do? How can I maximize what I have? How can I add this? How can I, sell something else? You start thinking the mindset of expanding what you already have. And then your ultimate goal is to create money while you're not there.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal.
He taught me that.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we're on the beach, we're making money. That's your goal. Now, a lot of people want to start off on the beach to say, but you gotta build whatever business it is. You have to build to the point that you're able to duplicate yourself, or you're able to have other people duplicate your image. So
Mhm.
if you're on the beach and hey, you can look at your laptop and say, hey, wow, okay, we're doing good here.
Mhm.
You can send emails back. You can communicate if necessary. But that's the key thing.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Man, I appreciate that. Like y'all really dropping some gems. Like I wish I
Really?
could take
Thank you.
I wish I could take like some of what y'all saying and bottle it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like this is definitely be one of the podcasts that I listen to, that I listen back to a couple of times. Because what I'm getting from y'all is what y'all are talking about around that mindset. Like your mindset has to be a certain way. Like you have a mindset of independence, you have a mindset of entrepreneurship, you have a mindset of like a work ethic that allows you to keep pushing forward. And real quick, next like shoot, I wish like for real, I wish I could pick y'all's minds for another hour, but you know what I'm saying. The next question I just want to ask, and this is my last question as well, is how do you I guess how do you leverage that? And you've been talking around it the whole time, but how do you leverage that mindset or those mindsets to really find the thing that you're passionate about, giving to the world, that you're passionate about, using as something that you're going to pursue? Because what I'm also getting from y'all, that energy that I'm getting from y'all, is like an energy about being passionate about the things that you're doing. You know what I mean? And that seems to me that allows it to be fun for y'all, one, and also something that allows you to always be able to explore other avenues and opportunities. So, and I'm also kind of at a stage in my life where, a couple things that you said really hit me. One is I'm in a stage of my life where I'm trying to figure out how to make my dollars make other dollars. Like I can go work at a job and get money, you know what I mean? But how can I take those dollars and make them make other dollars? And how can I find a thing that I really want to be passionate about, and a certain kind of build that well, build that enjoyment out of, because you said it's a challenge, but it's more like fun than it is like, being a grind. So there's a question in there somewhere. I hope you were able to.
No, no, I understand. I definitely understand. My suggestion is, I hate to use a real life person, but so one of our grandkids, she went to school for engineering at UF,
Mm.
and brilliant, brilliant child, brilliant. And so she had a community of folks, counselors and teachers and all sorts of, I mean, really reputable people to say, hey, you should be an engineer. And so I'm questioning her. She's a great, anything she puts her mind to do, she can do. But in the process of that, I'm looking at her writing and her
Mhm.
creativity and what she enjoys doing,
Mhm.
how I mean, absolutely magnificent it is, and how easily it flows from her. And I'm saying to myself, an engineer, this is what you want to be, and I mean, it's what exactly are you going to be doing? And once we got into the discussion, she realized that she's doing it for other people. She went into that career for other people. She went into that career because that's what she felt was, the expectations of others. It's not what she wanted to do. Often, what you want to do and what you're very good at doing, of our mindset,
Or
we
society.
society has conditioned you to think, I can't be a director. I can't go into radio. I can't go into, I can't go, whatever creativity that you may have, I can't do it. There's so many can'ts that are put in front of you. So we have to recondition how we think. We have to start thinking in terms of how we can do what we're good at. Once you find that thing that you're really good at, and there's something that you're really, really good at, there's some brothers that can I mean, they can take an engine apart, you know what I mean? Take it all apart and lay it out and put it all back together.
Yeah.
I couldn't be, my mind could not work that way. I mean, it would take me like 3 years. You would be looking at it like, what happened here? My mind doesn't think like that. I'm not interested in that. But you have to, if a person has that passion for that specific thing and they have that type of skill set, they need to follow the passion
Yeah.
Follow that skill set, because if it comes easy to you and you're passionate about it, you're going to be able to do it in a much more smoother, happier way.
You know what, Kila, I would also tell you, what is the one thing, and I know you've heard this before, what is that one thing that brings you joy that even if you weren't making money doing it, you would actually do it? Kayla, what I want you to do and what I want everybody to do who's listening is to really go inside. Doesn't matter what anyone has told you you're good at. What is the one thing that you enjoy doing? All of us on this podcast right now have fewer sunrises than we've already experienced. And I want you to be happy. So find something that brings you joy, yeah, but find something that you can make some money doing it, and you're not going to mind getting up because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I think that's the one thing that I want to say. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring us. And for me, from as young as being in middle school, I knew what brought me joy, and I knew it was going to be radio. But when you sometimes tell people what it is you want to do, they may not see that you can do that. So they'll try to put every roadblock there is or put things in your head. But I'm trying to encourage everybody who I ever encounter, find something that you enjoy doing and make it work for you. There's money to be made from that.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Definitely
Yeah.
appreciate that. I'll definitely give that a lot some thought.
Thank you. Do that, please.
I'm gonna ask y'all the hard question now. Are you guys
Mhm.
enjoying yourselves on Black Men Sundays?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah,
And you know, this
absolutely.
is different for George. He was not, and I'm gonna be honest, you are very good at telling your story. So you need to do this more often. He was not looking forward to this. And the interesting thing,
No, it's not
I'm gonna
because
tell
of
you,
you.
no,
Absolutely no.
not
No,
because of you at all.
no,
This
no.
is not his gig, you know? And so I had a dilemma in between point of view this morning, and you don't have to record this for listening, but in between point of view this morning, I usually go directly, excuse me, into voice tracking Soul School Sunday. But I made a commitment to Valencia. I'm part of their Black Advisory Committee, and every quarter we go and worship at a different church. And we chose, the church of my choice. And the service, they had a guest speaker, and she took us an hour over. So I was like an hour later getting back to the station. So when I tell you we were narrowing it down, I'm like, please go ahead. And he was like, is it really today? Do I have to? And
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no.
no, 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 no. But because this is not his thing. It's really not. So I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you,
I'm
sweetie.
so proud
Appreciate
of
it.
you.
Appreciate it.
That Chi-town in him, you from the Windy, so you know how the brothers from the Windy be real cool like that. But yeah, but before we let you guys go, I have a couple more questions. For couples that want to go into business together, like, I kind of prefaced it in my intro. This couple hasn't come on yet, but I have a couple coming on where the husband is a builder, the wife's an interior designer. I have other couples I'm not going to mention, but mentioning you guys made sure that, Monica's talent and George's talent mesh so well together that you guys are able to run a successful business. But, for brothers and sisters out here that are saying, okay, I don't have a defined skill set like they do, but I have a skill set. My husband has one. What tips can you give on figuring out the skill set and establishing a business?
You want the real answer, or do you want
Oh
a
no,
mushy
this black man son. You want that real deal over here? Let's go.
from from a black woman? I'm gonna tell you, every day is not a pretty day for us in business. And when we first started, we had to I had to define what my role could be with his business. Because, yes, yes, yes. Everyone says, y'all make it look so easy. That's because we have had to redefine and realign our lives to fit our personalities in our business. I am not the admin person. So I wasn't good at that part of it. And it caused a lot of friction. And I got to tell you, one day I just said, listen, do you want me as your wife or do you want me as your admin person? I'd rather be your wife. So we had to find an admin person to really keep us smooth and going that way. Now, the entertainment piece that's my jig. So I can book a band and I can find some talent and someone else can do the flyer. I'm not good. I stay in my lane. And when he started to understand that my lane was where Monica May is good at, he allowed me that freedom, that flexibility. And now at the end of the day, we're still in love and it's less friction. So sometimes you got to step back, realign and reassign the roles.
And that's absolutely true. I mean, you have to you have to make a decision as to what you're good at and what your partner's good at.
Yeah.
So if your wife, for example, in some cases, maybe the wife is really good at handling the books, for example, and this person may be a visionary that's
Mhm.
not necessarily great at handling the books. You don't want the visionary necessarily handling the books. You want the bookkeeper to handle the books,
Yeah.
So you want a person that's good at what they do to like Monica said, stay in your lane.
Mhm.
So as far as entertainment, I will discuss who's coming, but she'll say, "Hey, I know this person is going to perform.
Mhm.
They're really good. I heard this performance. Okay, great. Okay, we can book them for that particular,
So
evening."
it's just everybody does what they're good at.
Correct.
The
Correct.
commercials, I write and voice the commercials, and we run them, all over. So he allowed me to be me, and that's the whole thing. And that's also the piece of maturity. Everybody can't be in business together. You just can't. But for me, my marriage is much more important than me, being able to. I just got to be me, y'all. So he allows me to be me.
And you have, even if you're in business, there has to be someone steering the ship. Somebody has to steer the ship. And whether that, everybody plays different roles, but
Yeah.
somebody has to have a direction as to where this is going to go.
Okay.
So if it's Monica May, if it's May Communication, obviously Monica, she's steering that ship. She knows
Mhm.
exactly where she wants it to go, how it's going to, and it would be, I mean, wouldn't be a smart move for me to go in there and try and say, "Hey, wait a second,
Yeah.
let me tell you how to do this." I don't know what I'm doing. She's
Mhm.
the expert in that field. So you want to allow that person to use their talents, their natural talents,
Yeah.
and their skilled talents to actually, you know,
Do what they do.
do what they do.
Wow. Wow. I love that answer. And my final question, both of you guys can answer it, but I was looking at Monica's resume and I kept seeing, manage budgets, brand development, sponsorships. So I'm thinking, oh, sponsorships. I want to pick Monica's brain about sponsorships. How do we establish these business relationships with these companies? And how do we get them to believe in us enough that we can get some sponsorship opportunities, whether they're coming on Black Men Sundays or whether we're doing stuff with them? How do we establish these business relationships? And both of you can answer that.
I think for what I do is I'm with like-minded people. So Let's Spill the Tea has a partnership with, say, Pineapple Healthcare. And that's because we do a lot of health related pieces. We also talk to Department of Health. And these are places that they want to sow into a Let's Spill the Tea because they know that they'll have a solid audience of women there, depending on what type of product they're trying to push. I also am furthering my knowledge base by taking a 6-month grant writing class because we've been funding Let's Spill the Tea. We've get a sponsorship here, a sponsorship there, but I'm really gung ho this last, say, year and a half. I've been focused outside and trying to bring people in because we really do have a good product. So, what is your product? Who can you align it with? When you talk about generational wealth, what banks? There are eons of banks here in Central Florida. You can think of several, maybe even like a Truist Bank, certain banks that don't, maybe not a JP Morgan Chase, maybe not a Bank of America, but try a Truist who's trying to get into the social media market or whatever, or and you allow someone from their marketing or their community relations team to come on, get a spot with you on your generational wealth conversation. So align yourself with like-minded industry. This is social media is just open for what we do, Corey, and you just have to put a one sheet together and just start pounding the pavement, because that's what I did to get my sponsorships. And then if you even if you aren't a 501c3, you can still have an advisory committee. And this advisory committee needs to be lined up with people who are like-minded. And what are their affiliations? And have them bring some people to the park, so to speak, to play ball.
It's you're aligning yourself with the same they have the same goals. I always think in terms of what exposure does this organization want from, like, for example,
Mhm.
your podcast. What exposure are they looking for? What target audience are they trying to meet? So as Black Men Sunday, you have a target audience, primarily Black men, and demographically wise, you can go through all of that different type of information. And that's who I want to reach. I want to get that message to them. So what is that message? Does my company align with your message? You know,
Mhm.
and that's who you want to reach. And so that's the whole key, in my opinion, of getting that type of sponsorship.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, thank you both for coming on Black Men
It's
Thank
our pleasure.
Sundays.
you.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful discussion.
Definitely, Monica May, George Ashford. We appreciate your time coming out on the show. I was wondering, Monica, how you coming on the show when you like on from 5 to 10, but you told us. So thanks for that great information. Like I said, when we talk about spilling that tea ink, we're gonna have to do some more research on that. So make sure y'all look that up. And also, CB Bistro, do you guys have a website? If people want to check you guys out, how can they contact the business, or if they want to come in and eat, like how can people contact you guys?
So one of the quickest ways, you can Google one of the best jazz club in Orlando, and we'll pop up either the first one or the second or third within that bracket. It kind of fluctuates like that. But you can Google us directly. You can also call me directly at 321-229-5786, and we will send you a bling card, which will give you future events and give you like a whole spiel of
And
who
also
we are.
CB Bistro on IG.
Got your mouth. And finally, because like I said, I've been there twice. I've been there for NABJ meeting, and then I've been there for a political party. So, it's not so, for people that are saying, hey, what about if we want to book it for a day?
Yes,
Yeah, you can.
yes, you can.
Okay, okay. And again, they'll just need to contact those numbers in the web
Yes.
to do that. Okay, sounds good. All right, well, sounds good. Well, Monica May, George Ashford, thank you for coming on Black Men Sundays. We appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of this day and enjoy your week.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
so
having us.
much.
It's a black man son.